Michaela Vernava for Nesson.com on Radio Row, joined by Brian Morgan, the president of Texas Youth Football Association, and also Matt Maranz, the executive producer of Esquire Network's Friday Night Tykes. And this show, what is this show really all about? What are you trying to show viewers with youth football?
Well, Friday Night Tykes, while it's a show about youth football, it's really a show about parenting. And it's asking questions that parents all over the country ask. How far should we be pushing our kids? How hard is too hard? How young is too young? Basically, how as a society do we want to be raising our children? The TIFA is the most competitive youth football league in America, and we're showing one example of how a group of people decided is the best way to raise their children.
And you work with these kids. What is the impact of young players playing such intense football at such a young age?
Well, I think what it does is it breeds an atmosphere of competition, and that's really what we're trying to do is create an environment where the kids can learn to play this game of football competitively and learn the ups and downs of what football is all about as far as overcoming adversity, learning how to win or lose, but learning those valuable life skills that comes along with it as far as teamwork and being able to translate that off the field into the classroom and eventually into the workplace when they do go that way.
Well, clearly there are so many positives, but as far as the critics who look at these young kids who are sustaining serious injuries at such a young age, what is the extent of the type of injuries that you do see with 10 and 11-year-old football players?
Well, I think, the injuries, people always harp on the fact that there are injuries that happen in sports. They happen in any sports. But, we see the typical injuries that you would have in any type of contact sport. In football, you have, injuries, injuries to appendages and things of that nature. But the concussion aspect of it is we had 6 reported concussions last year, but only 4 of them turned out to be actual concussions. And as far as how they grade them, it's on a scale of 1 to 5. They were in the 2 to 3 grade range.
For you with the show, there were 199 concussions in the NFL in 2015 alone. In 2016, some serious injuries. What kind of reaction do you get with the show when the show is exposing some of these negatives? I know there are a lot of positives, but some of the negatives that do go on in youth football.
Right. Our job is to chronicle just what would be happening even if we weren't there. So it's not really pushing anything towards injuries or trying to deny the injuries. It's just showing what happens. It's football. The game can be made safer. The game can't be made safe. So as we're just chronicling what happens, there are lots of injuries from broken ankles to concussions, and it's difficult. I'm a youth sport parent. I'm an adult. It's difficult to watch the kids getting hurt sometimes. It's difficult for all the crew as they're watching. It is part of the game. So we're just really trying to show what happens to these kids and mostly their parents, and see how it all plays out.
As Matt mentions, the game can be made safer. In what ways are you guys proactive about making sure that the game is as safe as possible for these kids?
Well, first and foremost is through education. We're educating the coaches on the newer tackling techniques. We instituted a program called See What You Hit. And that's basically just to improve the tackling techniques to take the head out of the game. In addition to that, we're also educating the organizations as far as better equipment. Make sure your equipment is being recertified and you're buying the latest equipment that's out there to make the game safer for the kids.
And you said that you are a youth sports parent yourself. So what is your level of comfort with the type of things that associations are doing to make sure the game is as safe as possible?
Well, it's not just the safety. This league, it's very intense. There's a lot of coaches. There's some yelling going on. It's a hyper-competitive, ultra-intense environment. As a youth sport parent, I see what my son goes through. He happens to be a soccer player and a basketball player. Sometimes I see coaches down in that league doing amazing things that really are inspiring kids and creating great memories that kids will carry forever. And then sometimes you see some things, both safety-wise and just intensity-wise. They're like, man, I'm not sure I want my kid to be part of it. So it goes back and forth.